Hey family, lost a very dear friend yesterday, and not just my friend, but a friend to anybody who has ever stood for anything geared at promoting human, civil, and unalienable rights. Claudette Colvin passed away. You might not remember her name because history, for whatever reason, chose not to properly honor her. She was a 15-year-old kid back in Montgomery, Alabama, 1955, who sat on a city bus and refused to give up her seat to a white woman. And you're probably going, no, that was Rosa Parks. And you're right, Rosa Parks committed the same crime only 9 months later. Claudette's attorney, the highly respected civil rights attorney Fred Gray, told me personally the NAACP chose Parks to be the face of the civil rights movement and the bus boycott because she was a more refined woman, had a good social standing, and that her public persona, her perception, was better than that of a 15-year-old pregnant teenager. And they needed someone of good standing and mature enough to, be able to face what would become a major legal battle that would prompt a seismic shift in civil rights as we know it today. So Chelsea Clinton wrote a book about Mama Claudette. She called it She Persisted. Some kids out of school up in the Bronx were reading it, studying it during their Black History Week. Little did they know, heck, little did I know, that Claudette Colvin lived only a few blocks away in the Bronx. Yeah. So I get this call from my executive producer, Sharon Barnes Waters, telling me the story. She says, we got to get this lady in here. We got to get her in here for our Black History Month special that we do each year here on 1010 Wins in New York. Fast forward now, and this iconic history-making figure is sitting in my studio. And the audience, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Native, watched in awe as she told me every single facet of her story, starting with sitting on the bus and being glued to her seat. She says she was held down by the weight of Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman sitting on her shoulders. Well, somebody called the police and the cops came and unglued her from her seat and took her off to jail, charged with assaulting an officer, disobedience, being Black and on the front of a bus, etc., all of that. I remember her telling me they took her to jail and locked her in a cell. She says she heard a guard coming and she took a hairpin out of her hair. And I'm sitting there going, Mama, what are you going to do? Give him a perm? She says, I said, you going to use a hairpin to break out of the joint or what? She says, no, I was going to give him a perm, all right. I was going to poke his eyes out with it if he tried anything. Oh, she had me rolling. But she says he just came in there to unlock the cell to let her go. And she was later sentenced to an indefinite probation. Her family would later successfully fight to get that off her record. Took them a long time to do it, but finally they did. Meantime, the National Museum of African American History and Culture opened in Washington, D.C., part of the Smithsonian. It was a big deal. There's a Rosa Parks exhibit, but not much mention at all of Claudette Colvin in it. So Sharon and I went down to Washington to speak with the curator, who turned out to be an older white guy. Now, at first I was tripping because I thought, why is this man in charge of a Black History Museum? It just didn't seem right at the time for me. But then my color blinders kicked in and I thought, well, hell, Spielberg gave us the color purple, so it doesn't matter. I guess this guy knows what he's doing. I mean, everybody deserves to be given, the benefit of the doubt. My mom and dad taught us that, and we figured, what the heck? He wouldn't be in there if he didn't know what he was doing. So we had a meeting, and I asked her, is it possible to consider adding at least a small plaque to the Rosa Parks exhibit to acknowledge what really happened and reference the Claudette Colvin story, which really led to this historic turn in, civil rights? That dude looked at me like I was from Mars. I don't remember his name, but he basically said no, because a lot of people walk in here and want to tell us we need to change this and that, and we're not going to do that. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm getting a little emboldened now. I'm like, I'm a pretty influential newsman, a guy who chronicles history and current events every day, sitting here with my executive producer and not somebody who just slept in off the street. So I said to him kindly, but this is our history. This is a fact that needs to be told, needs to be included. And after an hours-long meeting, he finally came out and said, no, we are not doing that. We're not making any changes. That exhibit is fine just like it is. Family, I have not been back to that museum ever since. Now, I'm not trying to influence anybody to boycott the museum. If that was the case, I would have started a rally or a protest a long time ago. But For my taste, if it's not accurate, if it's not factual, I don't fool with that. I deal in facts every day in the news, and I'm not going to fool with that. Anyway, another story. And so I want to give props to Claudette Colvin myself. You are a trailblazer. You are an amazing and very brave woman. And not just for me, but for all the lives you changed when you sat glued to that seat on that bus. She and I became friends, along with her sister, Gloria Laster, who calls us from time to time, mostly Sharon, to keep us up to speed on how Mama's doing. Well, Gloria called us yesterday and told us the news that Mama had passed away. Claudette was in Texas when she passed. And I'll never forget, every time she would call us, she'd go, "Where's that old big-head boy? Where's that Larry?" That's what she called me, the old big-head Larry. Mama, I'm still here, and I'm still glued to my seat. And because you stayed glued to yours, I get to go on the radio and TV and tell millions what happened every day. Because you stayed glued to your seat, I don't have to ride on the back of the bus or the subway. I get to ride in first class on a plane. I get to take a limo to ride to work and any place else I choose because you stayed glued to your seat. I get to live on the tip-top floor of a luxury high-rise overlooking Manhattan because you stayed glued. The words "sit over here" or "drink from this fountain" or "go around the back" have been replaced with "Mr. Mullins, right this way, sir." And a chef comes out and introduces himself. And the staff smiles and says, "You're that guy." Because you stayed glued, Mama. I'm going to be here. Thank you for your service, Claudette Colvin. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sitting down on that bus. On behalf of all of us, thank you. The only thing now, Mama, you no longer have a seat. You got wings. Love you, Mama Claudette. And I still wear this t-shirt you gave me years ago. It was my constitutional right. Say hey to everybody up there in heaven. From old big head Larry. Yeah.